Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how I made these two coastal frogs. One of them has a shaker inside. I had gone to Hobby Lobby and I found these little jars in the jewelry section. They're jewelry storage containers. Comes in a package of, looks like 6. So I added that into the one frog. I wanted to show you real quick how I put the eyes in the mold before I started the pour. I just take, because they're little amphibian eyes, they have the little slant, and I have to mark the back so I can see which direction they're going once I put them in. Otherwise, they could be going in 2 different directions, and we'd have a pretty goofy looking frog. So this is how I do it. Add the little mark on the back, and then add the UV resin to the indentation, and then press it inside, and then I put it in on over the UV light for a minute and a half. I sped this up just to save you the torture of watching it. Sometimes I use black marker, sometimes I use white. If I'm using a clear, then I try to use the white or the silver marker, so you can't see that, but I've never really had any problems. But this way, it actually works out really well. And now I'm making the shaker. I always start by mixing my vegetable glycerin and water in a separate cup so I can get the consistency and the colors that I want. I had used an alcohol ink in this one. It was an aquamarine, and it was just too dark. And this is exactly why I always do it in the cup first, so I'm not making a mess in the jar or whatever container that I'm going to be mixing my ingredients and glitter or whatever I'm going to put in there. But as you can see here, even with adding more water, glycerin, it was too dark. I didn't like it. So this got ditched, and I moved on to a blue. I decided because the aquamarine was just too dark, and maybe because it was an alcohol ink, I'm not sure. But this is a pigment. I just did 1 drop of the blue, and I think this was perfect for the dolphin. This just looks more of an ocean blue water for the dolphin, and this worked out perfectly. I use a mixture of half and half typically. It's not an exact amount. I just eyeball it, but it's half glycerin and half water. Once I get the color that I like, poured it into the jar, and then I'm going to add my little dolphin. I don't know where I got this dolphin from. I think it came with a different mold. It was in my stash, but I thought he fit in there perfectly. I switched my camera around, and I'm sorry that it's sideways. I have no idea why I filmed this sideways. I don't know. So I apologize for that. But at least you can get that side view. You can see him floating in there, at least a little bit. Got a little too close, so again, I apologize for that too. So here I'm just wiping off the top. I wiped it off with the paper towel with water, and then I also used some alcohol, 91% alcohol, just to make sure I had a good clean surface for the cabochon. And I just used a glass cabochon to glue that on there with the UV resin, and just put that under my light for a minute and a half, and it was perfect. Because it's all clear surface, it actually sealed on there pretty quickly and really well. Now the glass cabochon worked out really well for this one, but it made it too long. It was too deep, and he almost didn't fit. He did fit, it worked, but the next time I did this, I used just a plastic sheet And so I didn't have it, it actually fit a lot better. So my eyeballs are in there. I'm doing my first layer of clear resin. And then I'm going to move on to, I'm doing the little, I don't know, to me this looks more like a stream. It's not really coastal, but I added some sea moss and then my little starfish. And I just layer that in there. Obviously it is upside down right now, but whatever I put on the bottom is going to show on the top of the frog. And then I had this shell, seashell, that was perfect for it. And then I let this cure for 4 hours. And I'm going to go back in and I'm going to add some little seashells. And this voided areas where you can see through, you'll be able to see the seashells underneath. And it works out perfectly. Now I'm going to move on to the shaker. You can see how tight of a fit it is in there. He almost didn't fit, but I made it work. And this is why, and you can see here that it's flat. It actually, just barely, but he fit in there and stayed within the cavity of the frog. I was debating back and forth whether to add some moss to this. I wanted to make sure that you could see the activity with the shaker from all sides. So I just added a tiny bit of moss on each side, and I really like it. I was debating back and forth just to leave it clear or to add the moss. I'm glad I did. It just added that little bit of something in there. So you can see in the end it worked out perfectly. So 4 hours later I went in and added my little seashells. Now the seashells for the most part stay put, but if the cavity doesn't fill in with the resin, they will float. So you can see a few of them floating there. So you need to stick around and keep an eye on it, because even though it looks like they're all going to stay put, some of them tend to sneak up on you and float to the top. Of course, I didn't make enough resin, so I had to go in and make just a little bit more, and then finished off this frog. And you can see here where they're starting to float. I did try to push them down and turn them around so they could fill with resin and stay put, but you'll see here in a little bit some of them snuck to the top. And here I'm adding the blue resin. I just used the same color because I wanted him to kind of blend in so it would be seamless. I did have to add a little tiny bit more so it would top it off, but here is the shells. Here are the shells that were floating. I did try to get them down, and then I just gave up and took out the ones that were floating and finished that off. The next day, we're going to have the reveal. You can see here he worked out, stayed put, and he's completely encased in that belly of the frog. Took me a minute to get off. I kicked myself for not adding the mold release on there. I need to do a better job with that. But he came out beautiful. Look at that. I love it. You can't even see the glass cabochon in there. He's so pretty. I like that it's even though it was a tight fit, he moves pretty freely in there. And the bubble helps move him along as well. There were some bubbles that collected on the glass more than I would have liked. Just little miniature bubbles, but still turned out beautiful. So I'm definitely going to be doing some more of these. So tell me what you think. And then here is my other one. You can see here on the top there was one shell, little rogue shell that floated up, came out. I just sanded him down so that wouldn't scratch up anybody's surface. He escaped when I wasn't looking. But I absolutely love these. I've made these several times. They always sell very quickly. There's just so much going on in here and so much to look at. I just love all the detail and the dimension. Look how pretty that turned out, and I love the contrast with that big shell in the middle. I hope you enjoyed this video. But look how pretty he is. So much going on. I love that blue. And this was pigment as well. I just added a little drop of pigment just to give it that glass-like look. And here is my shaker. You can see, well, I can see all those little tiny bubbles in there. That drives me crazy. Obviously, I could get rid of all of that with a pressure pot, but I'm really bad with using that as well. I'll be adding all the links in the description below for the products that I used in this video. If there's anything that I missed, please feel free to leave me a comment and I'll respond to you as quickly as possible. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. It sure helps my channel a lot. I hope you'll have a fabulous day, and I can't wait to see you for the next one. Thanks for watching.